about. You could help out with a little bit of guidance on what you want me to talk about.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So I've been researching most of this stuff for a very long time, and I am pretty much aware of the net that's around us, and that this is a basically a nine-dimensional matrix that's intergalactic and interdimensional. So that's the information that I'm working with, that the matrix is nine-dimensional, and it's an overlay over whatever is the reality that is not the holographic projection that we're participating in. And there's supposed to be some kind of event, and one of my good friends that I trust seems to think, and I never gave it a lot of credence, but he seems to think that it's Nibiru or Wormwood, Planet X, coming through in 2017. And he has a lot of evidence to support that. So then I did a series of interviews with Andrew Bartzis on galactic history, and the information that came through from him was that there were time wars that started about 55 million years ago, and it was started by 15 interdimensional beings who were made aware of some kind of ruckus in this part of the galaxy. And so they, you remember the movie Dune? Did you ever see
Fortunately, I
Dune?
have not seen that, and I always hear about it, so I'm gonna have to get around to it.
It's a really good one. Anyway, there's a very vivid scene in the movie when the spice people are hooking up with the various kingdoms, and they have a kind of train that goes out, through the galaxy, and it extends to a certain point, and then they, hook it there, and then they extend it out further, and that's how they travel. And so Andrew claims that these 15 interdimensional beings came here about 55 million years ago and saw that there were warring aliens on the planet that had been fighting for many thousands of years, and the light side and the dark side were both just spent. They were really, on their last legs, trying to fight each other. And so they saw an opportunity, and one of the beings incarnated into the planet, which is supposed to be a seed planet, and she was in charge of the incarnational process. And then they brought in the reptilians and the archons, and they tricked both of those parties here because they were the best of the best to take over the incarnational process, and the interdimensional beings were already, coming into incarnation so that they could take over the genetic lines and basically fuck everything up. So I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but the story doesn't really matter, because whatever happened, and here we are.
Yeah, I like that. You covered a lot, and I like the end part as well. There's even in the type of situation we're in, if this is a kind of holographic system, the events themselves can shift and like change, like a type of shifting modality of variables, but the theme or the inherent changes within those are always going to be, they might be different from whatever angle you see it, but the result is that we're in this type of situation here, which is basically, this is our reality. it's not shifting, and the problems that we're experiencing, the strange scenarios, and basically like a takeover and all this stuff, it's very real. Either that or some group is doing all that just for the fun of doing it all, which would be pretty much harder to believe than interdimensional warring races.
Right, right. And the other part of that story goes that I mean, it's a really it's a very long story, and it involves Atlantis and Lemuria and a lot of trickery and this and that and the other thing. But one thing I do recall is that they had a wager, and they were allowed to uh, to manipulate events for a certain period of time. And according to Andrew's information, the that period of time is ending sometime within the 2012-2020 window, and all of the cards have to be put on the table because there has not been a graduating, souls have not been graduating for thousands and thousands of years. They've been kept in service by these beings, and they'll go through the tunnel of light, and then they have the the review, the life review, and all that is it's an interference pattern, and those beings are playing God, and then they're just sending us back in, basically guilting us out to come back so that we can be food, because we are food for interdimensional races that consume our energy, whether it's anger, hatred, rape, or worship, or anything, worship of idols, worship of Hollywood. The whole thing is set up to snare us, and so Earth is like a maze where there are traps everywhere. Drugs, sex, work. I mean, anything you see going on that becomes obsessive is all part of that matrix that captures our consciousness. And then when you go through through the life review, then that's a technologically advanced way of getting us to come back and basically make the choice that we'll come back because we can do more, we can do better, or we're told that. And basically it's a lie. We're just being held captives, and we're all slaves on the planet that can't get out. So there must be a white side, a light side that is working diligently behind the scenes, because they can't be known. I mean, that part would not be obvious. The part that's obvious is the part that is the dark side. And one Linda Moulton Howe did a show once, and I've never been wild about her, but this one show was incredible. And the bottom line to her information was that when she dug into the government awareness of what's going on, she said they basically know everything. They know how we got here, what happened, and they know all of it. They're just not telling. And of course, they have the advanced technologies which they've been developing in league with these entities. And she says that it boils down to a wager, that there's a side that it's a bet. The one side bet that humans were worth saving, and that they were worth it, and the other side said, we should be exterminated. And so they were allowed to do whatever they wanted to do to prove that we're just a bunch of crap. And there are others that say that we're parts of the divine spark, and that we're not what we seem to be, that we're not these pathetic little automatons that are worthless, that we have a divine source that cannot be taken away, and that's what they feed off of. So it kind of comes into play with the idea that the Anunnaki, who I'm guessing could look like the Nordics or who may be reptilian. In any case, anything can look like anything. So we don't really know is who is what, because anytime an alien appears in light and has abilities and powers, they could be the darkest of the dark. And that's just a game that they play here. The whole game of light and dark is just a game. It's the same coin, two different sides of the same coin. And when people get identified with one side, they're simply shifting their consciousness or their focus on one side, and they're not realizing that there are two sides to the coin and they can't grasp it. So the dark is out to get the light, and the light is out to destroy the dark, and it's an endless game. It just goes on and on and on, seemingly forever. But I don't think it goes on forever. I think there's a reset, and if this is a holographic projection and we are in it, then the reality is the source of the projection, because once the projection is shut off, this all disappears instantly. I mean, if the projection, if the hologram of the galaxies and all this vast universe that looks so incredible, if that's just a projection, and it could be, I mean, there's a lot of scientists that claim that this is a holographic projection, then we're not real. The only thing that's real is the part that's behind the projection that's causing the projection to manifest.
Yeah, you've done your research. Very much so. It's pretty much what's going on. I mean, I don't know, but from my involvement with the unacknowledged special access programs, which I like to just term the secret projects, that's a lot of the storyline that we're told, and then there are obvious proofs as far as the capabilities of certain technology that I know and others know is possible, and to the point where it's kind of like a balance of like kind of like a cost benefit equation of whether they would use this technology to kind of fake this whole storyline just to gain power, or, have this banking system and all of that, or whether there's something much, much deeper going on. And it does seem like it relates to basically that the universe has this type of holographic quality based upon consciousness, and in that sense, nothing is really what it seems. And then at that time itself is, it's not linear as we would think, and there's so much more happening here that humanity is connected to, that all these interactions that we theorize relate to this type of control system, it would be more akin to millions of years worth of basically a time war versus these families that gained power over duping people over, at a certain time, and this, that, and the other, and there's just so much more to go through. I wrote a list of everything you said down, and I can speak on each of it as I'm in a really weird state. I don't know why, but I could speak on everything. I'm kind of blown away almost with because a lot of people will have this knowledge, they'll have this information rather than the actual knowledge of it, and it'll just be because they've done research or heard about it or something like that, but they won't have the actual, like, the organizational hierarchy that you kind of displayed right there, you presented, and that really is what it comes down to, this hierarchy of what it really means, and that is a very close, if not the explanation we were given. And then there's various experiences that we've had, operations, all types of stuff that kind of it's got a lot to do with it. For instance, I've seen most of the beings that you mentioned and a lot more. And again, a lot of this can be through inserted memories or simulated memories. But then we got to question whether they're working out these simulators and charades, if you will, just to get over on humanity for another, so however many thousands of years this can continue,
right?
Or whether we're in a time of peril right now because time is cyclic and this is a projection system, and we're basically coming to a completion cycle, and we have to reach our spiritual fulfillment, put the cards on the table. We have to get something done, otherwise it would be akin to us being in this projection system, realizing it's a projection system before we
Yep.
organized our lives into basically giving credence to this higher order system outside of it, and then someone flips the switch and turns it off, and we're all basically, it would be like kind of waking up a sleepwalker or something, but on a cosmic scale. And I don't know what the results would be for our species at that point. It would probably be Armageddon type scenario. That might even be the
Mm-hmm.
best case result of something like that happening. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess I'll go back to my, unless you have something else to say, because you seem to be on
Well,
point with this information.
I'm also aware that there is.
You could help out with a little bit of guidance on what you want.
When I hear something that is being explained from somebody that seems to be speaking their own truth, I can tell whether they're telling the truth or not.